would have moved it.
Oh, it's lodged
I
to the
can
point
start- I
where
started
it's gonna move. The only thing it's gonna do is catch all of the trash that comes down
Okay.
the canal road, limbs and so on, and then eventually it's down there,
Yeah.
which will flood the property that belongs to somebody else. The person who wrecked it is doing it to get it from his property across the brook. To the upper land.
So he's not responsible?
He is.
Okay, so up there will be
Getting
the,
people to
let
do
me
what
just
they're
see.
responsible for is like moving molasses in January. It isn't easy.
This is true.
Okay.
So, I
So
mean,
you
we
can
have
let
to
me
get some
know next
authority.
slide,
I mean, that's
or
why
if you want, I can
send
press
it
it this way and
Town
then
manager.
Ross is wireless, so either way.
And get a hold of the policeman
Okay.
and say, go out there and tell it.
Oh, I don't know if I, Whitney, Patty,
You're going to
and
get
just,
fined.
sorry.
Do we have to indicate, how long is Bicknell? Do we have to indicate where on
It's on the lower loop.
lower loop?
Yeah.
I'll add that.
this. Hmm.
Well, I was just coming in and, there was a herd of turkeys just before I took the turn. You see them?
Yes, I did.
There must have at least been 20.
Lock Haven is just probably like, I probably saw 200 turkeys individually.
It's so funny. They crack me up.
I just want to know if, is it one of their hunting seasons? Because when it's hunting season, they usually go to the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might,
Not
be.
yet.
I don't know. I'm not up on it.
There, yes. it is.
They're practicing for not getting shot.
Yeah.
It's the bow season now.
Is it the doe? I know
Well,
they're
the
deer.
turkeys are sure on the move. I've seen
Yeah, it's
a lot more.
You know what I had in my neighborhood, in my yard, I haven't seen around here at all, purple martins. I had a flock of them feeding in my backyard. I watched them for about an hour. They were so much fun to watch. There must have been 15 of them, and they were just doing barrel rolls and diving, and it was so much fun to watch.
Mosquitoes.
They were just going to
That's
town.
good.
Is there
That is
any
good.
Purple Martin houses still
How are
around?
you?
For them nesting?
Good.
Not in my neighborhood. I got a back
I got
house.
company coming from Japan.
But,
Yeah, we have a bad.
Vacuum
yeah,
There used to be a Purple Martin house
in my lawn.
on the
So I have an unkept lawn,
Tropical
30 houses.
at the
lots of
junction
dirty
of.
laundry.
Other than that, everything okay?
Well, they're coming to see you.
It was
Yes,
really
yes.
cool. One of the cheers at a hotel.
I've seen a few of them around. I can't think of where I saw them, but I've seen a few around.
Yeah, I remember hearing her
It's
name.
about 3 stories tall and they go about 30 feet up.
Do you
on
need a
pole.
vacuum? I've got
Yeah.
an extra.
On top of the pole.
Well,
Seen it.
that.
I just can't remember where.
I don't need-
Truck back.
I-
up in there.
Because I was
once
But
in my
thank you
childhood.
so much. But
Yeah.
when Dorothy's
What I
here,
see is.
she's stuck on that. She's in Boston.
Left town in
Stuck on
75 east
the
out
nice
there, and they
continent
come back
because the
and
plane
they-
came so early, they have to sit
Yeah.
and wait.
Don't
until
know
my
how
breath
much
opens.
It's usually pretty low.
I definitely want to get out chasing.
A lot of, like,
Oh, there's been.
you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hi.
You think?
Oh,
Yeah.
Anxiety.
yeah, Rob said put it,
He was
and he'll put it in, in a folder called CC footage. Oh, okay.
unwound right up.
Oh, it's terrible when three things break at the same
Okay,
time.
but the Marcia, and you can't get a repair man.
No.
There's one in Danbury, he's on vacation. He'll be back next
Are
week.
you Ed Ricky? I'm Dr. Thomas.
Come back with COVID.
Oh, dog. I don't care.
Just come on.
Yeah,
Patty,
I would submit.
I was in the laundromat today to do my blankets and make fresh in the sheets. I never felt so sorry for all these women. This is only gas. So,
You a member of the New Hampshire Lakes Association?
I've been on the board for 19
I
years.
just, I just wondering if you're on that.
That's one guy and he was the
So you know, I got a reference from Sue Pratt for a person on the Watershed Warriors.
Yeah,
Like to call the meeting to order,
We'll talk about it when I'm on.
7:00,
not because of my speech, but.
Conservation Commission of Enfield. Kate Stewart has invited the guest tonight to speak to us. And so I would like to have her introduce Patty to the rest of the group, and then the floor is yours until you finish telling us everything you want to tell us about rain garden.
So Patty has been doing I would say, a number of different pieces and parts of projects in town. but very much in the conservation sense. And so I thought it would be great for her to come and talk to us a little bit about what she's doing, especially where we're doing some education pieces and see some opportunities for tie-ins where we can support each other and where we can learn a little bit. So Patty, this is Patty Freed, and if we want to just go around the table and say our names since we don't have tags.
Sure.
I'm Kate Plumley Stewart.
I'm Jay, Patty knows me.
I'm Daryl Tice.
Shirley Green.
Carol Wyman.
Lee Davis.
So welcome. I'll give you the floor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. So, thank you for having me. My name is Patty Freed. I've been a resident of Enfield for about 10 years, a full-time resident for 6. I think what I'm going to do tonight is tell you a little bit about what I've been doing at Lakeside Park, how it ties in, because we have a rain garden there. And also then talk a little bit about rain gardens and how I think that introducing them to people in Enfield would be just an amazing thing. They have a lot of power to really clean stormwater, and I think once people understand them, they will be really motivated to try and have them. So yeah, next slide. I'm here tonight kind of as a UNH Extension Master Gardener, and one of the things they encourage us to do is to educate our community. It's kind of the way we give back for the education that they provided to us. And I was lucky enough to find an internship in my own town, and that was Mascoma Lakeside Park. So really, Lakeside Park I was really lucky because it's just such a gem. There's a lot of amazing native plants there. And I think just that it's now been preserved as a park for everyone is just really wonderful. So really what I've done there is just trying to facilitate work days to keep a restoration going. We just have been in there kind of removing invasive plants that we could do with our hands and the tools because of all of the shoreline protection issues. So really our hands, it's kind of limited to what we can do, but we have spent a lot of time renovating the gardens that were there and pulling out invasives to kind of open up the view and clearing areas. Next slide. These are just some images of different projects that we had. We had a very successful invasive removal of purple loosestrife along the shore near where the sailing club stores their boats. This is an image of them digging them out. That day there were 9 contractor bags of purple loosestrife that was dug out of that area. And this is the 3rd year now, and I haven't seen any plants come back in that area. The image on the lower shows some volunteers putting seeds into the existing rain garden that's at the park. We haven't done anything at that rain garden yet because really I'm just really learning about rain gardens myself. So kind of holding back before we dive into that. Next slide. So this is just kind of some of the things that we have accomplished over the last 2 years at the park. Removing a lot of Japanese multiflora rose, the purple loosestrife. We've planted native plants that have all been donated from different sources. We've planted some native shrubs. We redesigned and replanted the Department of Transportation beds that were there just to kind of make them look better. And again, it was, projects that we could keep people busy on, not really knowing what the long-term, what will happen with those beds. We also at one point had a volunteer work day where we planted over 1,500 spring flowering bulbs. So many of them have come back, but not all of them have. So next slide. Thank you. The biggest thing that really infused that project was, for me anyway, personally, was we got a small grant for $2,000 and it was through Love Our Byways and Toyota, and it had ridiculous requirements on it, but it really did give us, we had to get at least 35 community members at the park for a photograph, which was, and also then knowing that we had all these people and what were we going to do with them, because it was a little daunting, really, you can't just set 30 people loose on a project like that. So anyway, we got a lot done, set up teams. Most of the teams worked on invasive removal. Next slide. So these are just, this is just some pictures of of our work days. You can slide through that one too. So now to talk a little bit about rain gardens. And so we do have a rain garden at Lakeside Park, and I think there's so many opportunities. I think probably every one of us here has an opportunity for a rain garden in their own properties, and then of course the town as well. But basically a rain garden is a landscape depression that captures rainwater runoff coming from roofs, driveways, the streets, the parking lots. It captures the rain and it holds it for a little bit, and then it kind of filters and percolates all of that. Things kind of move down and through and out. And by the time, hopefully within 12 to 24 hours, the water is already kind of moved through and filtered out. So this is actually a photograph of a local rain garden at King Arthur Flower. So I invite you guys to go check they've done a really beautiful job. And this is one that was in flower just this past week. It's filled with native plants, some shrubs, a few trees. Next slide. So some of the benefits of rain gardens, and sometimes you hear them referred to as bioretention cells. It's a green infrastructure term, and rain gardens are considered green infrastructure. But basically, I'm just amazed at how effective it is at managing stormwater runoff, and the filtration systems captures and absorbs the rainwater. It reduces the volume and speed of the flow of water, so it's helping with the erosion and the flooding. It improves water quality by filtering the runoff through layers of soil and gravel, through plant roots as well. And removes contaminants. So for me, I think about, parking lots, especially driveways, the oils that are coming off of our vehicles, chemicals, fertilizers, all of those things filtered before they reach our watershed. So also recharges groundwater. That percolation process is replenishing all of our underground water systems. Supports biodiversity with providing habitat and food sources for a variety of insects, birds, and wildlife, really helping to maintain very healthy ecosystems. They're visually appealing, increasing property value, and improve the overall aesthetic of residential areas, and certainly I think municipalities, towns as well. I mean, anywhere there's a garden is going to look better. And also, I think right now, it's such a great education opportunity to raise the awareness about how it really can be a good stormwater management tool, and also the benefits of us using native plants. I think it's such a good opportunity to offer community involvement from our little elementary schoolers on up. So next slide, please. These are just some images. This is a rain garden put in by UNH Extension. It was a Master Gardener kind of work day, but this shows you an example. A rain garden along a roadway in the upper right. And then on the lower one, this is actually also King Arthur Flower parking area, but using plants around a large storm drain to filter that water that's coming off of their parking area. So those plants are getting a hold of the oils and whatever else and cleaning that water. So before it gets into the drain system. Next. So there are some design considerations where a rain garden is different than a typical garden that we would have at home. And I think some of the overwhelming pieces are trying to determine the size of a rain garden, but there are so many great online tools now that help homeowners figure that out. But some of the considerations are the location. You don't want to put it too close to a home's foundation. You have to think about your soil and also the sun. The size and shape is based on your space, but also on the amount of rainfall, amount that's coming off of a house or a parking area. So making sure that the volume of water that's coming is addressed by the size and the layouts of the rain garden. The prep, there is some prep in the soil that it has to be well drained and a lot of organic matter. And then of course the plant selection that's I think one of the biggest challenges, because you've got to have plants that can withstand being in water, having wet feet, but then also that they potentially could be in very dry conditions. So that's one thing. And then there's a maintenance component as well. So I think probably the biggest will be the initial watering, keeping things, addressing watering, although this year would have been a perfect year for rain garden. And then the weeding, but from my reading, after a couple of years, once the plants are established, the weeding becomes almost minimal. So next slide, please. So this is a great illustration. It just kind of shows you, the downspout, always water coming into the rain garden, and then, showing the kind of the bowl that everything sort of sits in. And it just gives you, I think just gives a great illustration of how the water's coming down through all of those plant roots, getting cleaned. And yeah, so it's got to be in the bowl. You can sort of see the berms on the side. Sometimes you need retaining walls, sometimes you don't. It depends on the property area. So next slide. So I think there's two case studies that I think I found really interesting, and I would encourage you guys, if you're interested, to look into them. One was a case study for Crystal Lake in Burnsville, Minnesota. So Minnesota is like really progressive and doing an excellent job at encouraging property owners to put in rain gardens, pollinator gardens. They have tax rebates. It's just really impressive. And this town in Minnesota they took two suburban neighborhoods back to back, both built in the 60s. One, they put in 17 rain gardens, and then they watched the two similar watersheds in each neighborhood. A controlled site and then the rainwater gardens, and monitored it prior to and after installation. And they watched that for 2 seasons, before and 2 seasons after. And they determined that they had a 90% reduction in volume of runoff into Crystal Lake. That's just like amazing. So that's from 17 rain gardens if you're interested, there's a lot more information on this particular project. So next slide. And then another similar study that showed, this one was very interesting. This was in Cincinnati, Ohio, again, not exactly like Enfield, New Hampshire, but just, watching warm season rainfall events over 4 years. Nearly half of the total inflow volume was detained, with 90% of all rainfall events fully detained in the gardens. So I don't know how many gardens they put in Cincinnati, but the information is there on their website. But the most impressive thing I found was that the infiltration rate of the rain gardens was 4 times greater than that of surrounding turf areas. So that's lawns. And I think that that's pretty impressive information, like for people to think about, like their lawns, there's no root system, but there's nothing. It's not, so I think, and also the soil structure improved over the years due to probably the mulch composting in place. And the other interesting thing about that case study was that they had 2 gardens, and that they showed that the upper garden was actually a sediment filter, so that it's also filtering out sediment, which we know is not good for the lake. So next slide. So basically, just to kind of wrap things up, I just am really excited about the potential of doing something with rain gardens. I think that I can easily see our town doing a really good education series. We could collaborate with the Soak Up the Rain program, which the DES is managing right now. Also, I think we have the potential to even maybe have some local growers do some rain garden starter kits, something like that. I'd love to help research funding sources and maybe plan a work day even to work on the town's rain garden at Lakeside Park. So, yeah. So that's basically it. And I'm open to questions. I'm happy to send people information.
What is the difference between a rain garden and what's the word I'm looking for? The wetlands.
So a wetland is you wouldn't necessarily put you wouldn't put a rain garden into a wetland because that soil is not draining. And you wouldn't wanna mess with a wetland, right, by adding anything to help it drain better. So unless maybe you added plants. But the big difference is that, I mean, you wanna see where the water's flowing, you know, kind of follow the flow type thing. And then, and to determine, you know, where you've got an area where you can dig a bowl, like you've got to dig, you know, it's got to have a little bit of not a huge depth, but there is depth there. So it's holding the water like a bowl almost. And there are times where it would be completely dry, but you wouldn't want to put one in a wetland.
So, but can they work in tandem? You know,
I suppose, I mean, it's possible that a rain garden might become. I don't think so. No, I think that they'd be very different. Yeah, yeah. Because really the rain garden is capturing water. It's grabbing it and capturing it. The wetland is sort of always in the wet state. So, and the goal really is the filtration, the cleaning of the.
Wetlands do that too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is some similar function, but the main thing I see is that the rain garden is going to be more decorative and provide a good deal more color than what a wetland would do, and probably is more easily assembled on people's property than a wetland.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Like, I've never looked into how to create a wetland in a landscape.
But you don't, nature creates.
Right, exactly. So, but with the rain garden, it's really created. It's considered low impact development, actually. It's, you know, so it's a way to help with the stormwater runoff that we can create.
Yeah, it's kind of like putting a mini wetland on your own
Yeah.
property
Yeah.
but you want to be sure and situate it where you get the stormwater runoff.
Yeah.
Jay, you had a question?
Yeah, kind of where Shirley was going. I was gonna ask Patty, where in our town, do you see the most beneficial? Do we have any big sites? Or do you kind of envision homeowners around the lake taking it and upon themselves and say, hey, this is a great idea.
Yeah.
And let's build them in our yard where we can provide more filtration for the lake.
Yes, both.
Okay,
Both.
Mhm.
Absolutely both. I think there are many municipalities that are doing this, that are putting rain gardens and, you know, like, so you think about, just even helping with the large parking areas, you know, that we have, you know, just as a way to clean it, just clean that runoff. So that I do see it in the town, but also then I think that, you know, we have the power to put these plants all around the lake. And when you think about how they really do in fact clean, that runoff, you know, it seems to me like a no-brainer. So,
Because every lakeside property has runoff,
right,
so it
Yes.
can't help but help if people
exactly,
put
exactly.
these in.
And I, even through this process, I realized, I thought we were doing a really good job where we're at our home property, but I realized, like, I see now, like, I see a few opportunities where, like, wow, the volume of water that's coming from this particular corner, it might be rooted right, and we have the strain, we put the storm drain in, just did all those things, but you can just see that it's the perfect spot, like a rain garden would clean all that from it's our driveway area, you know, like I think about that. So, yeah, really good opportunity.
You've got required setback of 50 feet from the high water mark on all of these lakes. So where would you anticipate putting a rain garden on a private piece of property that is going to filter the water sufficiently that by the time it gets to that 50-foot setback, which has got natural vegetation in it by law, would still be of benefit?
Well, so okay. It on some of the lakeside properties, mine as well, we have, you know, that kind of buffer zone. We have a lot of native shrubs. there is one area that was a beach that is now grass. So though, that area I look at and I think that it's a perfect place for native plants. And there are native plants that grow naturally along the shore, the riparian plants. So why not just put those in along there? It may not be a rain garden per se. We may not be capturing water there, but we certainly could be adding plants there.
So, the rain garden, from what I'm hearing you, it does a better job of capturing water than the lawns do. The
Absolutely,
roots are deeper, and presumably that's an important part of the filtration.
yeah.
So the question, of course, is that you can't, by law, use fertilizers, herbicides, or pesticides within the setback area, which can be as much as 250 feet, actually, according to some of the regulations. So we have to be able to encourage those people not to spray and do things like that to protect the vegetation that's in their rain garden. And at the same time, do a lot of manual work to weed it, to keep things from being overwhelmed by it. So how would you suggest you start up some kind of a PR position to illustrate those points that the
Well, the weed issue, right? So if it's done right, like that should work itself out after a couple of seasons, you know, with the proper mulch, because you have to use shredded hardwood on a rain garden, otherwise it's just gonna float up and off. And so so that's one piece. And I think, yeah, so, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, the other question I wanted to ask you too is that a lot of these properties, because of the importance of maintaining a tree line 250 feet away, there's a lot of roots in those
Yeah.
soils. Now,
Yeah.
you have to start digging a bowl. How are you going to do that without creating a disturbance that the DES is going to be unhappy with?
Right, so, okay, and to go back, I remembered my train of thought. What I was gonna say is, you know, it's the power of plants, right? It's the power of plants and their roots that you're putting in that area. So, as far as the trees go, so that's just really important site work to do, like to see, like, you don't wanna compromise a beautiful tree with a root system that is doing a job as well by digging near it. So I would recommend to the homeowner not to put a rain garden in near there. And again, like, we're looking for specific areas on a property where water is really running through, not necessarily along the water's edge. So, for the folks that are super, super close to the water, really, I think the answer is plants, shrubs.
I could pick on the backside of Mascoma Lake since my family's there, right? So the backside where a lot of the really old camps are, and it's very, very rocky. A lot of them over the years, like, have put in like stone walls or retaining walls, right? And when you go to replace them, you need to have an engineer and someone do it with you. But those ones that are there, that's an opportunity if they're doing a replacement. A lot of those people have lawns they mow all the way down, right to the water's edge, right? And so you see these houses that are very, very steep with shoot straight down.
I can think of-
And it's very, very, and when you ride your boat around,
Yeah.
or if you row or paddle, you see them. So those are all opportunities for open space where we could be, and they do a lot of complaining about the geese landing
Oh, yeah.
and the ducks, right? So it's an opportunity to get two for one, where you may reduce.
Geese are,
I know,
they're,
Spectacle Pond has a lot of
open
geese.
green lawn is an
Right.
invitation.
I mean, and Spectacle Pond is another one, right? We have
Yeah.
Spectacle Pond. So those are opportunities to catch some of the water before it hits the pond and get it back in. And you're not digging in the trees because these people have already eliminated the trees years ago. And they're long gone.
I have a storm drain coming from my house. I have a good sized yard. And it comes right from my house and I marked where the drain ends on my lawn with a big stone. And that's kind of the low point. I mean, that's perfect spot. That's where I think right now, I've been making gardens in my yard. Now I'm gonna add one more right there, that spot, because it's always the greenest spot. And, you know,
Yeah, and that's, I think that's a big part of it, and that's what is knowing where to put it on your property so that it is in fact doing what it's called to do.
Yeah.
So,
If the stormwater isn't running off there, it's no point in being.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. I mean, there are other things people can be doing, but rain gardens really are specifically
Yeah.
designed to harness that water, like, bring it to me and let me clean it, and then that's what it does. So it's just, and I think that, you know, along the lake, we're not gonna be digging rain gardens all along the lake, but certainly people could be planting, you know, swaths of native Joe Pye weed or, gold, you know, the things that naturally pop up along our shore already. So we could continue to just populate it with those plants. So, yeah, and I think the native plant appreciation is still relatively new. So it's like, it's also another opportunity to educate, because then you don't necessarily have the insect problems. These are plants that have been adapted to live in our town for a long time. So they, you know, they're less maintenance. You don't have to deadhead them. You don't have to cut them back. They're not like a perennial garden. And I think that's an important distinction. Like, these aren't, they are beautiful to look at, but they are workhorses. And, you know, I think most people are gonna have, there's not a ton of plants that work in a rain garden, but the ones that do are all very low maintenance, native.
Are there lists of those available?
There are, and I have an excellent one. So UNH Extension, along with, the New Hampshire Lakes, they did an excellent, yeah, there's a Lake Smart, and there's also a website now that has the whole plant list. I think I actually brought it, but yes, I mean, it's all plants you're gonna recognize, you know, the black-eyed Susans and the purple cone flowers. There's a lot of sedges, and the grasses, our native grasses are also in there. And where you place the plants in the rain garden does matter, because some can stand to be in the middle of the bowl that takes the most water. And then the edges, you put your plants that don't need as much water, because that area isn't gonna sit in water as long. So just, yeah, so
Well, if the Conservation Commission is going to push this, we need to develop a series of recommendations that are printable and distributed to some way through the websites or whatever to the people.
Yeah.
So, if you could provide us with a list of the reference sources that we could investigate, that would help us get started. And if somebody wants to take on the responsibility of developing that, particular program,
I'd be happy to work with Patty and have someone else do it.
Are we gonna have a
It would-
workshop for the public?
That's the goal.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
Cause I'm really,
several.
huh?
Several.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important, because a few years ago, we had Kat Buxton come. I don't know, we had a good turnout, and everybody wanted more of those workshops. So I think and I'm excited about the pre-kits, because if people get a kit, then they don't have to make all those decisions.
I
They
can
just
make
know
you
how to
some
plan.
really basic pre-kits for this week.
I'd be glad to work on it too.
That'd be great.
I would
I've
love to.
actually,
Look at that.
quite a few years ago, I used to work with teenagers who are at risk. And we worked on as a lake host 4 days a week, and 1 day a week, we did projects like this, and we did several rain gardens.
Awesome.
And so I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah, it's such a great way to bring people
And
together.
there's many other ways that people can do things that will absorb the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I'd be willing to help set up educational.
are you, Patty, are you prepared to, how should one say, advise, Shirley and Lee and Kate about all these things?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And also, you know, we have, through UNH Extension, I have others, you know, experts. So I'm still new at all of this. This is, you know, I may be old, but I haven't been doing this a long time. So UNH has just really wonderful resources. They have PowerPoints put together that are specifically geared towards kids, towards adults. So I have access to all of those. But I do think a day, a community, you know, training kind of, yeah, would be great.
Would each of you ladies give your email addresses
Sure.
to Patty so
Right.
she can contact you when and if there's. a
Yeah, this
need
is
for a
wonderful. This
get
is
together.
wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
we need to develop a list of things that can be done before we have this public meeting. We can pass it out to.
Sure.
So that's one of the first things that I'd like to see you four ladies do, is to put together a comprehensive list of where rain gardens should be put, how they should be built, what kind of plants are in them. And then any other information about kits that are available, where they go, and most certainly, how much they cost.
Yeah.
That's an element that's gonna be effective with a lot of people around this town.
And honestly, that was one exercise I did not have a chance to do. I was curious to be able to see how much does it cost to put in a rain garden? By the square foot. And the studies that I looked at were so old that the pricing just, so I'm gonna gather that information so we have a sense, but
I'm on the like.
seeds are
committee,
expensive,
but also
so
he's-
it's great to start with that, but yeah, that sounds great. I'm very excited, so thank you.
Thank you.
The community really needs to know
Yeah,
about this
there's a lot of
because I just built a new house and I required 2 rain gardens and they were on our site plan and everything, and they came in as holes with rocks.
No
So,
plans.
yeah, no plans.
It's
They're
interesting.
pretty ugly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is what you end up seeing.
And rock swamps, yeah.
Yeah.
And rock stone.
Fill in, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it works because the water
Right.
gets there and is dissipated, but,
The
you know,
thing that it doesn't do is the filtering process,
Right.
the cleaning.
yeah.
It's just remarkable. There's some really good science experiments for the kids to see that same thing with colored dye and how it change oil in the water doesn't pull through the soil. So some really, some exciting things. So, okay, good. Well, thank you. I'll let you all get back to your.
Thank you.
And I ask a quick question. I live in the woods. I have a lawn, but there's banks and everything is milkweed, everything is allowed to grow. So and the water runs down the driveway, which, anyway, so the lawn is just there. I got flower gardens all over the place. So I was wondering what, as far as a rain garden there, that would just filtrate the water, that we don't fertilize or anything, so,
Where to put it, you mean?
yeah,
So next time it rains, watch where the water goes
okay.
and sort of see where it lands. And that would be the first place to consider.
Thank
But
you.
yes, you're welcome. All right, so thank you, everyone.
Take care.
All right.
And I'm giving away free seeds to you guys if you want some, because I have accidentally planted myself a rain garden.
Accidentally.
Well, because I knew they filtered and I knew they had long roots, because I understand the body of the plant. And I knew why I wanted them there at the edge of I didn't want my septic box I'll send it to her.
What are they? What are they, Kate?
So Rudbeckia, which is,
Oh.
and there have been many kinds of Rudbeckia, right? All of the various echinaceas
Yeah, they're
um,
awesome.
are awesome. And you know what, the one I didn't know that's super easy is bee balm.
I have,
Scarlet bee balm is a native, which I was like, wait, what? So I have tons.
it has a big root system.
So, and they have a great root system. So it's something that's like for some people, especially if you already have a bowl area, it may be cleaning up the bowl. It may be relatively low rent, especially if I really want to discourage people from, I'm going to call it citying their property, where they like try to flatten it and get rid of the mosquitoes. Like there's like huge desire to do it and then push the water to your neighbors, and it's dangerous, right? Or to push it to the road. If you can get it to go instead of a mosquito pond into the ground, a lot safer. I mean, it's
We have a couple of other
Yes.
people here, so I'd like to move on. Mr. Rippey, would you like to come up and sit to the table here?
Wherever you'd like.
This is Ed Rippey. He has expressed a desire to join the Conservation Commission. We have an opening for another member. So I would like to have you ask Mr. Rippey what he envisions as an important part of participation in the Conservation Commission and how he got interested or is interested in conservation. Okay.
Can I interject just for minutes? Can I have the spelling of your last name?
Yeah, RIPP.
Perfect, thank you.
I met Mr. Rippey this selectmen's meeting. He was, an advocate of the flooding that happened on Holly Drive. And, he had a lot of good points of what was going on, and so I gave a little talk. And so I think he saw that we kind of was in tune to land and promoting conservation and controlling water runoff, and so he's yelled to me, I'm joining.
Well, I'd like to.
Yeah,
So the rain gardens would be an idea that you support.
Oh, yeah, anything that would help,
I think it's important for people to recognize that the ultimate force of all of these lakes is eventually to become ponds, and then marshes, and then dry land, and eventually climax vegetation. People have been basically accelerating this process since the beginning of Enfield. The reason is that planning boards and the old systems of assigning setbacks and so forth were a long time in being established. And you've got homes along these lakes that are as close and as on small lots as is even feasible for septic systems and leach fields to work. The other thing you've got is that all of these lakes are in bowls. They're surrounded by mountains. And when it rains, the soil will move down slope. It doesn't all get there at one time, but over successive rains, it eventually drains into these lakes and will silt them up. I've been working with Glenn Green on Crystal Lake for some time, and he's been collecting data for decades there. And the Crystal Lake's depth is 50 feet. And the last time he was out with me, or I was out with him, he had been dropping a bright white disc
Secchi dish.
down into the water. And he couldn't see it below 30 feet. So the silt that's in the water there is continuous and quite extensive. And eventually, some of that will be washed out through the channel that drains Crystal Lake, but a lot of it will sediment to the bottom. And that's how the lakes will eventually see. And we have a sequence of these situations right here in Enfield that anybody can see. You've got the lakes, Mascoma Lake and Crystal Lake. Then you have got George Pond, Grafton Pond, but it's not much in Enfield. Pole Pond, Half Mile Pond, Smith Pond, and George Pond. And then you have things like the Suki Marsh, and they call it McDaniel's Marsh, although in my estimation, it's still pretty much of a pond. But all of these are closing in ultimately. It will be hundreds and hundreds of years before Crystal Lake becomes Suki Marsh, but inevitably it will be. Everybody in this room, everybody in this town, everybody in this state will be dead before that happens. So the real question you have to think about is how is it possible to prevent this from happening for the generations to come? We've got to start thinking about what's going to happen 50 to 100 years from now if we don't do something to stop this kind of sedimentation as best we can. Because otherwise, working just year to year isn't going to get the job done.
That's a great lead in to why I want to become a member. I have been frustrated for years about the amount of sediment and sand and stuff that is being dumped into Crystal Lake. I have a stream that bisects our property and I see it every rainstorm. I see that stream running brown. And I can watch the cloud of brown go into the lake, swirl around and settle down and just keep building up. I brought some pictures of this most recent one, which is probably one of the worst rainstorms we've ever had.
Pass those around.
Yeah, but see, this used to be where the edge of our property meets the water. This is all now just a great big bowl of sand. It's probably like 2 feet deep.
Wow, that's around. Go ahead.
It's bizarre. And, I've watched this happen through the years and it's awful.
So we have two competing situations here. We have the Public Works Department who sands all of the roads, whether they're paved or not. And that contributes to runoff of sand and dirt year after
Thank you.
year after year.
Mm.
So how do we block that type of runoff from those roads? There are these woven mats that can be put along there, but they're not particularly pretty, I would say, and they have to be changed out because they get filled up. Rain gardens might be useful there because a lot of the roads are higher than the land that is just on either side of them. I'm seeing that and I don't know whether they're gonna continue this into Enfield or not. Nothing's gonna grow there, it's all smothered.
But that should be water.
Yeah, of course it should. The people in Canaan, or at least some group in Canaan, is sanding the rail trail. They're adding a large amount of dirt to that. And it's obvious that they have raised the level of the rail trail a few inches, and I assume that they're redoing it because the stuff that they put on there 5-10 years ago has all been washed away.
This will too.
So this is, of course, gonna happen again, but that dirt is washing into the land on either side of it. Some of it is along the Mascoma River. So the Mascoma River, of course, is carrying this stuff down into the Mascoma Lake. So we have to figure out a way, if possible, to work with the Department of Public Works. I've talked to Jim Taylor about this situation some time ago. And it's basically a matter of public safety as far as he's concerned, in terms of keeping these roads sanded in the winter time. So we may not be able to do anything but build barriers along the roads of some kind to block this material from being washed out. And that might be easy to do along some of the roads, but isn't going to be very easy to do over a large area.
I'm sorry.
So those are the kind of things that I think we need to address in regards to rain gardens, flood control, water runoff, and see if there's ways that we can approach them all.
If we each do all that we can on our own property, it will help.
Well, of course, but the problem is, we have people here who don't give a damn. For them, they are here and they don't want to be bothered. We have a hard time getting anybody to really vote for something that is going to be, how should one say, constructive for conservation. And we've seen along the lakes, a lot of people who have deliberately violated DES regulations and have required the DES to come in and demand that they follow them. So we know that cooperation is not 100%. That's where the public relations business has got to be a long-term one, and where we need to be able to winnow down a group of recommendations like Patty Freed and you other three are going to do to provide education. That's the only way I see that we're going to change the attitude here.
No, I agree. And I think, yeah, her presentation and any type of education we do is gonna be helpful. And as Shirley said, every little bit helps.
Yeah.
And every, cause you're right. There are a lot of people that don't care, but over the course of 100 years, maybe more people will
You
care.
keep gaining
Well,
more.
that's where our.
We've seen it on the lake. We've seen it. We've seen people that were turned around and are now practicing. I passed these out before to everyone, but I'd like to pass it out again.
I have one.
There's lots of information on here that each homeowner can do, that it's inexpensive. So if you, anyone that doesn't still have that, I encourage you to read it. I've worked with New Hampshire Lakes for
Let me see if I have one.
19 years, and I've been
Oh, yeah.
passionate about taking care of the lake my whole adult life. And there's so much in this book that people can do and understand better.
To me, that's where our education program in the
This is
school is
Becky.
moving forward.
That's one piece of it, yeah.
You have got, the adults have already got their minds set for the most part. Difficult to change them, but if you begin to point out to the students at different grades.
No, but I'm not good with
The
paper.
importance to their
Good with
preservation.
No, I'm gonna talk about that, so you can, I can go to that if you want.
Well, I'm gonna do the same thing in the high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at any rate, those are the places that we need, and it's a long-term schedule. Oh, I've got these, Shirley.
I just encourage you to read it.
I do, I have it. I do read it.
You know, I
I
found
have,
this,
I belong to the New Hampshire Lakes situation. They send me all of their stuff now.
Good
I
way to
can- I
get
can-
started would be home parties, neighborhood gatherings where you have someone
Oh.
come in and talk.
Yeah.
To just people, like we have about 10 houses on our street, have all 10 families
Yeah.
come for a session and inform them, neighborhood by neighborhood.
Right, those are all good ideas.
Then you get peer pressure.
Celebrate your birthday by building your garden.
there you go.
Okay, Mr. Rippey, I think, we've got your ideas and your interests
Yeah,
pretty well
I can,
down.
I filled out the application, I've already submitted it, but I can pass this around if you want to see a few comments I made. But essentially,
Right ahead.
Yeah, sure, we'll pass.
I love gardening. I'm retired now and I spend a lot of time outside. I love gardening. I love anything to do with being outside. And if part of that is putting in a rain garden, it's cool. Some of those very plants that they mentioned, we had in our garden that got washed away.
Now,
Well, Kate Stewart
Do you
is
see
the
the-
chair of the
Thank you.
Board
Oh, you
of
do.
Selection,
Yeah,
and they will make the announcement.
He was
So
hanging out with us.
I'm going to ask her to see that when your name comes up, that they appoint you to the Conservation Commission.
Oh, good.
I look forward to working.
Thank you for filling that out so fast.
Oh, yeah, I was pretty excited about the opportunity. And, I'm a pharmacist, retired pharmacist, and I've been in management. And I've worked on committees, and I like to work with people. You seem like a nice group, so. I like it. And I've known Shirley for years.
and, I hate to be, but did you say Glenn couldn't see 30 feet? Is that what you said?
He said it disappeared at 30 feet,
No, you're incorrect. I'm sorry, but
30
you're
meters.
he's always been able to see 6 to 7 meters in the past.
And there's 3 foot.
And, except for summers when there is a lot of rain, sometimes you see less because of the water gets more gold colored. But, this summer, for the first time, which is very shocking and saddening, these can only see 3 meters.
Right,
Right,
and there's 3 feet per meter. So that's 9 feet.
right, not 30.
You can only see 9 feet down?
Yes, this
But I-
summer.
He was right.
The 6 to
Okay.
7 meters, 6 to 7 meters is very, very good. That's what makes our lake a pristine lake. And that's what we've always been able to see, and he has done it 30+ years, weekly, from May to October every year. And this is the first year that he's only been able to see 3 meters, 9 feet. So it's very sad.
Very silver.
And have we ever had Sienna back through?
Not before this year.
This year?
I think that there's a lot of runoff, a lot of places, the runoff there's stuff in it that is just washed into the lake. And it's caused, the nutrient level to get very high. And first time I've ever had it.
With all of this stuff that we got deposited on what used to be our beach. I'm scared.
But you see you see the importance of infiltrate bushes and then.
Oh, yeah. And you know that we did that. We worked with DES to line the stream and do things appropriately because we were having erosion of our property. And that was aggravating enough. To then know that it's going into the lake that I love was even more aggravating. So, you know, we spent some money and fixed it, put in the right plants and put in core lines and stuff, but, you know, and that was an experience that I can share with people.
You know, this study of, they did a study back in 1991 when they were putting in that development. And I kind of got into the papers, copies of them,
Okay,
and I could not believe the streams, the watershed that runs into Crystal Lake,
Oh, yeah.
starting up at Oak Hill,
oh, yeah,
down through. It's just amazing.
Well, that's the thing, your lakes are always at your lowest level
Oh, yeah,
and
but
everything
that's
runs
a
in.
lot of water coming down.
Mm. That's
There are
why they
10 of
call it watershed. It's not some kids think it's a building.
there
But
are 10 of those.
but it's shedding the
streams
water.
that go across Holly Drive. And we're pretty short,
Mm.
you know, it's 18 houses.
Yeah,
There are 10 of those, so we've got 10 culverts that we maintain. And,
But it's the same the whole length of Boys Camp Road. It's all
Yeah.
very steep
yeah, it is.
and,
a lot of
It all
building
needs
going on
to-
up there too.
There's a lot of building. We walked the stream after the flood. I wanted to see what kind of damage happened in the stream. And two neighbors and I, Tom Klaus and Marty Gibson, and I walked the length of it. And we walked up about 200 feet into the woods. And there was a section where not only was the stream like 3 times as wide as it had been, but it had actually ricocheted off, gouged out the dirt on like a hill area. And there were trees that fell down and stuff. It was a huge gaping hole. And then there's another one, right by the culvert that comes off of Boys Camp Road. You go out about 20 feet and then there's a drop about 10 feet because that so much water pressure and power
it's
it
powerful.
just blew this stuff out.
Unbelievable. But
And,
you said you hired Pathways. Pathways used to be called TCM, and
okay,
they're the ones that did that original study.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. It's good to know.
Well, we have one more person that I'd like to talk to, Mr. Craig Sanborn. Could you,
Can I stay over?
no, you can stay. I don't care. I just want to get over the people who came to, so they don't sit here all night.
All right.
Did you get that email that I sent you with those 4?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so the question is, thing that you sent me, I'm going to have to go down to La Valley's and get a formal invoice. I can't send this,
A what?
a formal invoice.
A formal invoice?
Yes, because I can't send this to the treasurer. It's not adequate enough for her to justify
So.
charging
question,
this.
please,
Our-
Formal invoice from the Valleys.
Right, because that's what you want to spend $204.54 for. Where there's commission here would have to approve that to start out with, but that's.
You know, I make a suggestion that we simplify because La Valley's already gives has an account for the town. Could we give him and approve up to, I don't know, $6 or $8 or whatever $100? Like say that we out of our budget would like to commit this much to trails, like you've hired him as a qualified person. And then the town could, if you need, I don't even know if you need a PO for them. Or if they just need to call and say, hey, Craig's okay to go up to this number. And then it would simplify it, then you could just get it as you need it. They'd have whatever they need from the town, from La Valley's, and then you wouldn't have to go through the extra steps. Like, I just wanna like streamline a little.
Well, the point is that I want this material, and I think the conservation wants this material to be purchased by conservation fund.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Fund accounting is such that you say we authorize up to X number of dollars out of the conservation fund for this purpose. I would suggest in future years, though, if you are gonna do trail maintenance, you might consider setting aside specific trail funds so that you're not depleting your conservation fund.
Well, that's something I've got to get people to agree to too, what the allocations of the budget, because we've gotten a budget now, but we haven't been able to allocate it, and I have to send that to Elisa by the 15th of September. Okay, point is that how are we going to be able to write a check to them? The treasurer is one of the conservation fund is going to write. I don't want her to write a blank check.
No, that's not how it works. So a purchase or, right, a purchase order.
Right.
So you can issue a purchase order that isn't up to, if the town needs one with LaValleys, they may not. If not, LaValleys has an account, you would authorize him to expend, say, I'm just throwing out $800.
Pass this down to Kate. Now, is that going to qualify as an accurate, purchase order?
No, so I'm telling you how to
That's
do
what
it
I'm
through the.
saying. All right, this is what I've written to Mr. Sanborn.
Well, no, let me finish because I wasn't finished. So the process is in businesses and for towns that if you need a purchase order, you can do a blank, what's called a blanket, which is materials up to, if they needed a number. They may very well not. We have an account, it's in good standing, right?
Sorry, question.
Yes,
I understand that the town gets a 10% discount on purchases from the valleys.
Yep.
Because they're a town.
yes, yep,
Thank you.
yep. And so he would go in, get the materials he needed, like on order. They would get delivered here and the invoice goes to the town. When the town gets an invoice, like a formal invoice from LaValleys, it gets coded. And that is when it gets the conservation fund number.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about this. I know in some places we have to put in like, this would be a requisition. That's a pretty complicated process for something that's really, I think you hired Craig, you trust him to do the work, right? The materials are getting largely probably delivered here. I would assume the big stuff.
Yeah,
Gonna be
yes.
at the deep, here, I've already.
So,
arranged with
I
that.
think you'll be in good shape if you just have a set amount and then you just want to know what you want to spend for the year. And when you're out, he either says, hey, I finished the work and we're out of money, you have some left over, or you can say, hey, you know what, we really need another $200 and the Conservation Commission could give them another two. I have no idea what that, I know you gave us like a rough total number before. I just can't remember what it was, Craig. I'm sorry.
That's perfectly all right.
Jay, please pass this along to all the members and ask them if they're willing to vote to spend that kind of money. I need to get a formal permission from the commission to do this.
Yeah, this is trail maintenance. Craig,
This is
you know,
for
trail.
materials to build the bridges.
What was the amount?
I have it right here as it happens, because the very same thing you have there, I have copies of, so everybody can have their own.
Is this the same as this
Thank you,
one?
Craig.
The exact
Yeah,
same.
that's the same.
Same one, like $444.
That's what I mean. Now, the thing that you're gonna have to get from Wrights, they don't have a 10% discount for the town.
No, they don't.
They're-
They're the only source around here of
Yeah.
rough sawn hemlock.
And they're a reputable company.
Best material to
Yeah,
use.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how the logistics are gonna work. Are you gonna go over there and make this requisition from them and then send it back to the town? Or do you want me to do it?
I can do it. I
Okay,
have a ongoing, shall we say, business relationship with them. This wouldn't be the first time I've shown up there, nor the first time I've bought stuff from them.
okay. The important thing, since this commission only meets once a month, we have to get these things going because it isn't going to be long before the snow falls and you won't be able to do anything.
Right.
So what I want to have you all do right now is if you see this material costs, and if you see the procedure that is going to be used to obtain it and to distribute it, I want a vote, a motion to approve this particular procedure for the Conservation Commission to work with the trail masters.
This is,
So moved. Did you say?
no, I think that it just doesn't make sense. Now we're nitpicking and telling him you should just give him a blanket amount for a year or a quarter and not do this, like, let's do it by, this is silly. I mean, he has a round number, he developed it. Can we just say, like, you have other projects you're gonna do after this one, or you wanna order just this?
It would be helpful to figure that a very small part of what I am ordering here would be used for one small job in another place.
Okay, so what if we did a motion to authorize Craig to purchase up to $500 for supplies to do the projects as discussed? I mean, I don't think we have to nitpick over it.
I like that.
I'm with
So,
that too.
yeah, so he doesn't have
He
to
doesn't
come
go
back and get
Right,
approved for
yeah, and wait,
$100.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as Chairman Tice mentioned, there's approaches.
Yeah,
That makes
Okay,
sense.
the other thing too, we don't just have large pieces of lumber. We've got boxes of screws that have to be properly stored somewhere. Are you
Yep.
going to take those with you then to your place, or do you want them to be stored at the Department of Public
I
Works?
can store them easily enough, or as long as there is a properly labeled and definite place for Conservation Commission supplies, they could be held by the town.
they could get.
What would not work would be to just leave them
Yeah.
in the warehouse here, and they're available to whoever wants to use them next.
Let me ask Rob for a spot for you.
Well, I've talked to Jim Taylor about the storage of the lumber,
Yes,
but I didn't mention anything about storing boxes of screws. And you
Boxes.
want them in a place that's open so you can get to them when you've got the volunteers ready, not when the Department of Public Works is open for business.
well, then you can trust me to be a good custodian of them.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying, is that if you were prepared to take the hardware with you, that's great.
I can do that. I got room.
Okay.
2 boxes of screws to talk about here.
Yeah.
Oh, where is there room in my garage?
Let me see that. What's the total about there?
It's $440 and some change.
Okay. So then we'll change the motion. Do we authorize a,
I made the motion. I think I got
or
it.
do you repeat the motion?
Yeah, I made a motion to authorize, actually, you
Yep,
read it.
to authorize Mr. Sanborn to purchase up to $500 in supplies to do trail maintenance as discussed.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Craig, you got your money.
Thank you very much, sir. That was easier than anybody thought it would be.
Yes, easier than I thought it would be.
Good leadership from the chair, by the way.
Well, anyway, We'll get
Does
the
anyone
trails.
else require a copy of this, or have I passed out enough?
I have one. Does everybody have one?
Yep.
Here we go.
Yeah,
All set?
Yep.
All right.
Great.
And I am thinking that the board has just authorized me to contact LaValley and contact Wrights and see to these orders.
You have the Conservation Commission's permission to do so.
Thank you, sir. I should be on it tomorrow.
Okay.
If you run into any trouble, just call the office and they'll tell them, give them the stuff, right?
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm gonna be at the farmer's market Saturday, drumming up volunteers.
That's right.
Right.
Tent there for you.
Oh, yeah.
I got plenty of
report
props. I'm
to
bringing
the
all these
commission
things.
on
I'm bringing the maps.
volunteers we've got so
Perfect.
far. With all of the notices we, posters we put up and so on, we've attracted exactly 3. But there's 2 things to be said. One, they're very good, capable people. I've met them. And 2 is that there are several other Cardigan Highlanders who live nearby who I will also invite for work parties. And, oh yes, I was gonna say 2, but there's actually 3. All of the sites that I've identified as proper to start out adding some bridges are off Jeff Pond Road there, and they're all just about a quarter mile from the parking. So that makes it quite feasible for us to carry these planks, beams, whatever you wanna call them, for the bridges. Even the 8-foot long 3x8 rough sawn hemlocks that were probably on the stump last month. But we have ways of carrying them, and it's only a quarter mile walk, so you've gotta, you know, take several trips to do that, and you only build 1 bridge a workday. Well, that's one that wasn't there before, was there? I'm seeing it. This is a project, and if we get that site done and buttoned up this fall, then we'll at least have something good to report.
Wonderful.
Sounds
I
good.
hope so.
Well, let me clarify something else. On that lower loop that we went on with the,
We went there August first, you and I, yep.
no, but I'm talking about, maybe you weren't with us when Alan Strickland and the surveyor for the Upper Valley Land Trust. And I went out walking, and town manager. You didn't go with that.
I was not on that one, no, sir.
Okay, never mind. I was just going to make sure that bridge that's been dislodged is along Bicknell Brook.
It is, but it's not on town property.
No, I know. I just want to make sure that I wasn't confusing one river with the other. Okay,
No,
so
you
fine.
weren't.
So it isn't on town property.
Not at all.
Well,
And
that makes a
it
difference.
seems to be pretty secure where it is, spanning the brook between two large boulders. So it's been there quite a while, and unless we have another Irene, it'll be there a while yet.
So DES would be the persons that should be notified as to this bridge's presence because it's not passable any longer the way it's tilted, and it could constitute a barrier to stuff coming down and catch it eventually.
Only if it collapses, because right now I'm gonna say 3 feet or so above the water.
Right, but if you start collecting limbs as they come down, then you run the possibility.
So
of
it
creating-
would dam up.
Yeah,
That
damn.
has not happened there yet.
No,
It can
I
be
know.
watched.
Okay,
Have the owners of the property been notified?
that's one of the things that this letter that Carolyn is going to send to DES and to the town manager is going to do. Is to notify those people that that bridge that they built there has been dislodged, is no longer on their property and constitutes a potential hazard to the flow of the Bicknell.
I would think they'd be responsible for getting it out of there.
Well, there's several ways of seeing that they can be responsible. If they won't do it voluntarily, then since they built it, they may be pressure to be put on them. I don't know, but that's why I want to get in touch with those two people, DES and town manager.
So the town manager is aware of it.
The town manager is aware of it because he was on the hike.
You write this down? Yeah.
Okay, that's,
I will, hide these things tomorrow.
thank you very much, Craig.
I have one last question. When the Lavalley's truck shows up with these things, where do I direct? Where do I
Tell them to come to the Department of Public Works on Lock Haven Drive.
Yep,
Jim Taylor has told me he will set aside a place for that lumber to be stored.
good. Good. I'm sure that there will be electricity available nearby somewhere.
Oh, for cutting?
Yeah,
Oh, I see. So you plan to do all the cutting here and then let the pieces over there?
it's far easier to drill holes
Yeah.
and make saw cuts with power tools than to do it all in the woods.
Are you gonna need sawhorses to put the
We
lumber
have
on?
it.
You have,
Yeah, we have it.
okay, then the electricity, I will, see that Jim's got the proper,
Yeah, and I'm sure that we can have electricity here.
yeah, that's where you got.
All right. Can't think of anything more right now. Thank you very much for your confidence.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, now we'll see if we can actually produce anything before winter.
We will.
Take care, good people. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Take care, Craig.
Okay, I want to, entertain another thing to, approve the minutes of the August 17th meeting. You all got that with,
Yep.
from the material?
Yep.
Does anyone have any corrections to those minutes?
Oh, just one thing. I wasn't here, so I should be put down as,
Listed.
I should be put down as excused because I let, Jerry know I wasn't gonna be able to be here,
Yep, I have you in the,
but I'm on his absence.
oh, app, yeah, that's just the language.
Okay, I have a
Thanks, please.
correction
Thank
on
you.
line 148. That should read,
Very good
members to
meeting.
review budget items and
Sounds like
propose
it's a good
changes.
meeting.
We didn't propose the changes yet because they didn't have the budget.
I mean, I propose that we change how we do it, but I could do it either way.
Well, but you're one member of the committee, not the whole thing.
No, I know.
I want to have, all of you got a copy of the budget appropriation report. Under the Conservation Commission. And you see that, along the left-hand margin, there are a series of figures for various kinds of procedures. Along the middle of that, there's a whole passel of zeros. And along the next area, there's a balance remaining. So supposedly, of the $2,675 that the Conservation Commission was allotted by the Budget Committee, there's $1,135.74 remaining. And they have been allocated to various sections along there. So I want to be sure that everybody is content with that amount of material, or money rather, being allocated to each of those designated areas. I know that they can change from one to the other, but I have to send this list for any changes to Elisa Burnett by the 15th of September. So if anybody's got any recommendations that some of this money should be put someplace else, let me know.
Well, we will be putting more on trails. Or is that coming out of the other?
That's coming out of the Conservation Fund.
I would suggest that you don't take it from the conservation fund and that you make it very clear that you have a trail maintenance, because you have a trail master, so now you have a maintenance program. They can add a line for you.
I agree.
I think that way it's very clear, like, hey, we want to put $800 towards, or whatever it is.
Because this will be
I don't think that's a good idea. If we start spending the taxpayers' money, we're gonna have to go to the board, select board and get approval for these expenditures.
That's not how it works at
No.
all.
because these is all, we've already have a similar amount left over from last year that we will, this coming year, be putting into trails, and we'll probably be doing that every year. There's going to be expenses to keep the trails up.
That's right.
Right. I agree. I think it should come, there should be a line here instead of coming from the fund.
I do,
So you
That
don't want to
should be-
spend any of the Conservation Fund on these kinds of activities.
I know, well, that, on that particular thing, I don't think we should.
you could,
There's
and you can
things-
also choose to not raise and appropriate more money to the conservation fund and designate it, right? You don't have to, you could do it as an offset, or you can do it as a separate thing. So if you want to continue to have the same amount of money raised to the conservation fund, but the conservation fund, you could also use, right? It goes into trust. You can use it to like purchase a piece of property. So do you really want to be stealing property money to do your trail maintenance? You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
It's a little-
$16,000 isn't gonna buy any property
No,
here.
you don't know what you have for opportunities in the future, right? As
Yeah,
down
we
payment.
never know what might come up that we want to support.
I don't think you necessarily want to
It's just
spend your
kind of-
trust down. Especially not if you're gonna go back to the voters and ask them to give you more money somewhere else using a different financial tool.
So you've got $1,250 in the Conservation Fund, which is the portion that the budget has, from the town is given to the Conservation Fund. Do you want to have that $1,250 left in the Conservation Fund
Yes.
where all those zeros are? Okay, so I'm going to tell, Elisa to put the $1,250.
Well, we may want to vote on that.
Well, I'm gonna
ask you to do this all at once, but I want us. And what about the Mascoma River? There's nothing down there, and I'm not sure.
What is that fund? What's that for?
There's the Mascoma River Association is a group that is responsible for maintaining or supervising activities that may impact the Mascoma River itself. I don't think we've ever allocated any funds to them or donated anything to them. But that's something that you may want to think about, but we don't have much time to think about it. Right now, it's zeros all the way across the board. Professional development.
We should use it more.
Professional development is things to pay for people to go to various conferences. Jay is off to a conference sometime
Oh, it was today.
today.
I'll talk about it later, but yeah, it was today. It was free.
It was free, but you had gas.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, the point is that, do you want to leave that $200 even though people don't want to seem to use it?
I do Zoom stuff.
Yeah, there is more Zoom now.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But it's like going to the annual Conservation Commission, what's it called? Anyways, we should think about, try to get to more of those things. And some of them do have a cost. And you can use this on other lines too, even though you have it on one line.
What about that, like the education with the master gardener? If we have workshops.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
do
gonna
we,
be expenses.
yeah, so
We may want.
we
to
have a fund, we
publicity.
have a fund for that.
How about Jay?
Well,
You need funds?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
any
still might
money
be under-
for?
Yeah, we'll need some, yeah, I mean, it's
The
all in the
education.
education. We should simplify the thing. I mean, we're a small entity. I mean, let's not make it more complicated. than it
Right.
needs to be.
Right,
Do
because we
have
can
any-
use these from other. these
Yeah,
from-
education.
All right, now what I'm hearing now is that you want to delineate or delete some of these categories and put them under education.
Yeah, let's simplify it as much as possible.
And there's different rules in fund accounting on how they can do it, but the town will, if you tell them the general sense of what you wanna do,
Yeah.
right, they'll put it in the right spot with the sub account and everything for you. So, until
So
you.
how much do you want to allocate to this education then? We don't spend anything on postage. Miscellaneous, there's nothing there.
Will you, if you undertake the water garden project though, will you wanna maybe send out a postcard? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if postcards are expensive though, so.
Do you need to break down every little penny? Okay.
No, so generally you're trying to think about what you might do and come to a realistic number when you do. You can zero base budget or you can guess. I tend to zero base, but if you know what your activities generally are for the year and you say, I think $500 is a reasonable amount to spend on educational materials. I'm just throwing a random number.
We're
You know,
broadening, we're doing
yes, you're
more.
doing more.
Yeah,
And it's not gonna make a huge tax impact. I'm not saying it's not important to be careful, but I think you need to ask for what you need to do, the work you wanna do, and that doesn't mean we can't go get grants too, and we just say we wanna do this without any taxpayer funds, or we can apply to.
We can reduce some of the line items and just have less line items, right? Okay, we can just, we determine how many line items we want.
Well, they,
Well, we gotta determine it now. I've got to have a vote of consensus before I can send this in. Otherwise, I've got my neck out and I'm not gonna have that. So if you want to do all of this changing right now, then settle down and do it.
Okay.
I think,
We,
Yeah.
we can really do it. The budget committee will probably level fund this. And we have this year, the 1,135 left. That's in the next year's budget. Some of that will go towards the trails and other of it can go towards, education.
I think you need to increase your minutes line. That was your, personnel. I don't remember what the line was. But you need to increase that. 'cause you
Meeting
did-
hearing records.
Yeah, so that one you need to bring up and I would bring it up.
You need to
into
bring
around-
that one up.
I would,
So
because if you're gonna do more and you're gonna be here longer, you're gonna need Whitney longer. She's awesome.
Whitney, give us a rough estimate of what you think that needs to be raised to. It was started out at 600. Right now, there's $310.74 in there. Is that gonna carry you? Or we're not working on a month, year-to-year basis anymore, our calendar. What is our calendar? October to October?
No,
It is March.
May,
It's weird towns.
May first, isn't it, to April?
Yeah, we vote in March, right? It's all that, yeah.
But it isn't immediate then, is it?
We spend funds before we have them,
So we need to at least carry her through to
or at least
March.
during COVID. But that's not, you don't wanna do that. You vote, you ask to raise and appropriate the full year amount. So last year, we know over the year period that we went over. So you should look at the full last year's amount and at a minimum, I would say do that.
So it was
I-
budgeted for $600. Should we put it to 800?
What was the amount we spent last year? Last time we were here, I proposed we did it and
289.
was it over by 289?
No, that was the actual.
No, that can't be right.
That's what it says here. YTD.
Year to
Is that
date.
year to date?
Yeah, but that's not a full
Oh,
year. That's.
I
year to
see.
date,
Okay.
yeah. No, we were given the actuals of last
Okay,
year.
yeah, no, I think we should have more in there for her.
Or you can vote and just have them figure out the number for you in the town office and round it to the nearest whole number. But at the end of the day, the budget committee is gonna pick your number. But it's good to try to make it sensible.
Well, it looks like
Well,
you're
no,
gonna
Not
be,
helping me a damn bit.
Yeah.
I need a
I
number.
helped you last time. I gave you the number and you didn't like it.
I think we should do 800 for the training, I mean, for the meeting, and I think we should have an educational budget of what, $500? Which we don't have an educational line. in here.
we're not gonna
What
make,
is it? I'm sorry.
we're not gonna make if you're talking about it being March to March, we've been through 5 months and spent, what, 289? So you're not gonna be able to go another 7 months.
Forgot about the.
Well, the only thing
Yeah.
that we need to preserve is the $350, which is our dues for the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. Everything else is open for either a request for expansion or
I
a
agree.
movement to some other category. So professional development could be used for education, right?
Mhm.
All right, so we're gonna put at least 200. Do you think we need to put 400 in there?
You can't, professional development is for professional development of staff or elected or appointed members,
Okay.
right? That's.
Right.
So if you wanted to use it for elementary school education, then if you have a general line, you could put it there, or you could put it in an education line
That's what
separately.
I'm saying. We're gonna take the professional development money and put it
Move
under
it.
education.
Okay.
Okay, is that the other thing supplies, if I read this correctly, it's $100 in there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, most of our educational stuff could be sent out online, either through our own website or through the town newsletter. Do we need actually to send individual cards to those people? Because it seems to me the people who are interested in participating in those things are going to be looking at the websites and the town newsletter. So that can be done for free, just a matter of us getting it to Lisa so she can put it on.
Yeah, you can do, it depends on how you want to attract people, right? It's hard to reach people. And so sometimes you have to spend some money. It depends on how much and what you want. I would say if you were doing a major project, maybe you don't ask taxpayers, maybe you incorporate into a project cost on a grant, some funding to do, you know what I mean? Like if you really wanted to do a bigger project, like,
Oh, we'll have to get a grant, there's no doubt about that.
so, and we know we have folks that know how to get grants for this stuff, so.
So can we add this, in that case, can we add this, the office supplies to the educational portion too? And delete that particular category?
Probably, I mean, we don't really have any office supplies, I mean, that's,
And the postage.
Okay, and the post.
They may, and they may tell you, like, for photocopies and stuff, they may allocate a certain amount of the copier cost to you automatically, but the town office can tell you that if they do that.
Well, I haven't received any notice from the stuff that Rob has been printing to send out to all these people by email for any bills. Are you telling me that they're gonna start billing us?
It's not a bill, it's an allocation for accounting purposes. You don't get a bill from the photocopier. So I don't know. I know like cemetery has, the copier has codes. So just ask, you could ask them, but they'll tell you if it's wrong. It's not like it can't be corrected.
Okay. And miscellaneous, can we add that to education as well? That's $100.
Have you ever used anything out of that account?
No, it's $100 still there.
You know, what might be smarter is to add everything, not make a new education account and put it all in miscellaneous. Then you have your education there.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
have something else, like you wanna buy little envelopes for seeds or something,
There
you know what I
you
mean?
go.
Like,
yeah,
you don't have to worry about it being a supply, you can.
sounds good to me.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's
that's
a
a
good idea.
So you wanna delete professional development, delete the Mascoma River thing, delete the supplies and so on, put it all under one category, miscellaneous.
I'm for that.
Yes.
Yeah,
All in favor of doing that?
Well, we need
Uh,
dollar amounts, right?
No, but I mean, I don't know whether the dollar amounts are going to be increased. I won't know until the budget committee. She's asking me to give her an appraisal of what we think ought to be allocated to those funds, but I don't know what the budget committee is going to give us. I
Well, so
assume they
we go to them and give them a number we're hoping for.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
so we're gonna. put
We are
in
gonna-
50,
we will look at the number
25
you
to
give us and decide
75.
whether that should be changed or not. And if it doesn't go up, unless we see something that we don't think is an unnecessary expense, it will be passed.
So $2,675 is a guarantee as far as you're concerned.
Not a guarantee, I would not say that. But
That was the budget
if you
for
level fund
2023.
something, it generally has a better chance of passing. But, wouldn't you agree, Kate?
Yeah, or within a reasonable percentage,
Yeah,
unless you can
unless-
advocate for a project for a certain reason, right? So if you have a reasonable and you say, we'd like to do this and add this, you need to be able to give a
You
rationale.
come and speak to it.
Right,
Yeah.
and so I think the rationale here and moving to miscellaneous, like, why did this line go up? Because that will be asked.
Yeah.
Is really, it makes more sense to, we're gonna be doing a number of projects to put it into miscellaneous. We didn't use these in prior years. At the end of the day, it's just accounting, right? You can overdraw a line for a good reason and allocate it and take it and transfer it from the other line.
Now, is anyone anticipating that we should ask for more this year?
I think you need to ask for more, unless you want to take it out of a line. I think you need to ask for slightly more for minutes because
For
you,
but I mean the overall thing, unless we decide to take it out of a line we haven't used.
Well, you want to.
And if that's a good
3,000?
reason, if the minutes is going up for all boards and committees, that is
yeah, it's not
A good
necessarily it's going up, it's that you overexpended it because it's the
oh,
number of
because you
hours.
think our meetings will be longer.
Well, you already were longer. You already overexpended in the prior year, so I think that's probably proof in the pudding.
Yeah, so
That we
we'll go for
under-budgeted.
800.
Yeah, I was looking.
And raise the overall to 2,875.
I like your idea.
Why don't we just round it off to 3,000?
Yeah, just do whole numbers.
We've had special meetings too that we've had to have the recorded here for.
All right, so do I hear anybody objecting to us saying that we need a budget of $3,000 next year? I mean, we may not get it, but the point is that you think that's a reasonable amount to request?
Yeah, from the.
I do.
Okay, then that's what I'll put in. And you want to delete most of these categories and put it in all to miscellaneous.
Right.
Can I ask, so are any of those, have any of those been used? Any of those categories you're putting into miscellaneous? Because if they have, I think we should not put that in miscellaneous because we're using it.
No, none of
No,
them.
they haven't.
None of them have, okay.
The categories
Okay,
are
so
still
what
the
about
same amount that was allocated.
much
We
is
haven't done a
supplies?
lot of education expenditures, but
Supply.
they've been just used.
There's office
Lately, we
supplies
haven't.
and.
I'm gonna be having some
supplies.
expenses.
Still
They're gonna be
100%
minor.
left. Oh, yes, oh,
Big,
yes.
so that'll
That's right.
fall.
The
We
school
got,
supplies.
we got a grant for the production of.
But they're gonna take, put
natural
those all into
resources
miscellaneous, so.
Yeah,
And we got anonymous donors to supply the money for the educational or informational stuff we gave there at the Shaker.
Shaker, yeah.
Okay.
So beyond that are the dues and Ms. Banker's expenditures for her services, about the only thing we've actually used.
so we can combine supplies, office supplies, postage. And put them all in miscellaneous along with
Mhm.
professional development, or are you gonna leave that?
No, I mean, we can always, if it's miscellaneous, we can always charge it to professional development.
So that's 200.
Jerry, you asked me to speak to the, last
Where's the-
property acquisition tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
but
got-
my question is, where were you thinking
Yeah, I know.
And they say.
if we decided to
What the hell are they gonna
give
spend
a
that?
gift towards that? Where were you thinking that would come from?
Conservation fund.
We've never used it. It's kind of foolish.
I would leave $1 in your professional development. So I would leave $1 in professional development, office supplies and postage and what was the other one? You don't, the reason you leave $1 is it shows that you may have intent to use it. It's just a mechanism to,
Okay.
right? And then no one can say, well, you said you weren't doing any postage. You say, we felt like we weren't gonna do postage, but we left $1 in there just in case.
Yeah.
And if you need to use it, then you just reappropriate, because you're trying not to overexpend your total. But it probably has better optics to say, like, our plan was not to do anything postage wise, but we ended up getting this fabulous opportunity that required postage.
Okay, so we're gonna raise the meeting and hearing records to $800. We're gonna leave $1 in postage. We're gonna put this professional development, supplies,
Education.
all under education, or in education rather than miscellaneous.
Yeah.
So everybody's happy with that,
Yep.
Yes.
but I'm gonna put this into Mrs.
Yep.
Lynette.
Now, how about that, the Mascoma River, we've never put anything in that line, so,
That
Should that-
line is gonna
yeah.
disappear.
And they may be holding it open just because
Yeah, I was wondering
was
if we
used a
should
long,
hold that
long
open
time
with
ago.
$1.
No, it won't disappear forever from the fund accounting software, but there are things you can make print and not print. So if you prefer it didn't print, you could probably just ask.
Okay, so we're all satisfied with this?
Yes.
Yeah,
All right. Then Shirley wants to say something about the,
no, you were the one who asked me to. I didn't even never think of it,
well, okay, all right.
yes.
Shirley, I'm gonna ask Shirley to present her views regarding the acquisition of the La Salette properties in an effort to reestablish the old whatever they call it, property.
Together again, the Shakers owned it in the beginning.
Yeah.
And,
They made a mistake and sold it.
this is, when we found out that it was going to be sold, it was a pretty scary thought. That it might get in the hand of developers.
Yeah.
So the museum decided to take the risk, and it is a big risk because it's going to, the museum does not have excess funds. And,
Well, let's say it's 29 acres. that correct?
28,
28.
yep.
Because that picture that they showed is a little bit misdirecting. It doesn't show,
This one?
yeah,
Well, this was just a photo that someone took that just,
Yeah.
shows the whole part, shows both sides of the road, which
but
is,
that long
which is
strip of
nice.
grass
Ross Taylor
there
actually did
has
it.
nothing to do with this.
No, I know.
Acquisition.
No,
It's only to the left of that they're talking. about.
Right, and across the street.
right.
And across the street, there's a red barn.
Well, there's two red barns and the brick house there
Yeah.
and the two buildings. It's, 5 buildings in all.
Okay.
Well, actually, this says 27 acres, but it says 28 acres.
Yeah, I saw 28.
Yeah.
And then I was told eventually it was 29.
Yeah.
The point is, go ahead with your,
Okay, so the closing date has already been set, and it's gonna be a 2-year campaign. And hoping to raise by the closing date, 2 million. And we've already raised 1,441,000.
Wow.
So I think that doesn't include this, it was 3 million, and then we need to raise 2 million more, because they've already raised 1 million, right?
Pardon me,
We have to raise 2 million more,
no, we've raised over 1 million
right,
already.
but we have to get to 3.
We need to get to the 2 by the end of
3.
this month, by the end of September. And next year, by the end of next year, we hope to get to 3.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I was trying to think of, lost my train of thought. Oh, and I know I hadn't thought, but because we're a conservation commission, Jerry suggested we mention it because we might want to help. Because it's going to protect that land that's connected to the Upper Valley Land Trust land and also the Fish and Game land. And they'll all be
It's tied together.
so we may, what is your feeling, or you may have some more questions too. I've got 3 pages of information here and
so why don't you fill us in on what you think is important for us to know?
well, I have.
Oh, that's
I
okay.
feel I
So,
have
yeah,
already.
Given us here.
The big thing and why the Conservation Commission might be interested in supporting it is it's preserving that land. And it's very important.
So are you looking for ideas maybe for us to support some fundraising activities? I mean, throw some
Give
things around.
money. I think they're asking for a donation.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a given.
Well, let's just think about that idea of donation, because the end of the closing date is the end of this month. We're not going to meet again until October. So if we're going to make a donation, we have to vote on it now. Otherwise, we're going to be out of line.
Yeah, the closing is September 28th.
So has anybody got any idea? We'll take this out of the conservation fund, not the conservation fund they list in the budget, but it's trustees fund. Anybody got any
Some
suggestions? as
feelings
to
about it?
the amount we should donate?
Is this a permitted use of conservation fund money? I have like, it's 70 pages, so I haven't read all of the conservation fund stuff.
Conservation fund is under the control, that's in the trust is under the control of the Conservation Commission. We can spend it for anything the Conservation Commission votes upon.
I thought there were probably legal bounds, aren't there?
How much?
The only thing we can't do is buy property without board of selectmen, but we can make donations from it if we want to.
How much do we have in that fund?
16,700 and some odd dollars. I got I don't have the last quote, it's 16,700 something dollars. It's in the minutes.
Can we give her, 2,000 anyway? Nice.
That's why I'm asking for a
I'm just picking
recommendation.
it out of a hat.
Amount.
What did you say, Jane?
Say 2,000 or 3,000.
I mean, I guess I get really nervous when talking about donating dollars that did originate largely from taxpayers, right? Because
Yeah.
the way
No,
the money gets.
That's wrong.
No, it is not. And I've had this discussion with the town. Did you donate every single dollar that's in that fund? Because if you didn't,
I donated $8,000.
that's fine. So what I'm saying is that not every dollar is in there. Money gets transferred from the budget into the conservation fund. So there are taxpayer dollars.
And that's true, but when it's transferred to the conservation fund, it becomes the property of the.
I
Conservation
didn't say it wasn't. I'm saying it originated from taxpayers. So you still, if anything that originates from taxpayers, I think you should still have some due diligence. I
But it
personally,
is, be used mainly to, acquire land to protect it and to, money has been donated, I believe, to the Upper Valley Land Trust to, for the property on that hill. I'm quite sure we did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that. That's.
We'd have
before
to,
my
we
time.
could ask Alan.
Mhm.
I forget. I think that I'm quite sure we did support that. But,
It definitely fits into our, MO. I mean, conserving land is
Mhm.
definitely important. And to have that land fall into a developer's hands would be not very good.
no,
Okay, so it says right here. For most expenditures, the Conservation Commission is allowed to spend the money by a majority vote of the commission. RSA 36-A authorizes appropriating funds for the Conservation Commission, establishing a conservation fund in which funds may accrue from year to year, and accepting gifts by commission with the governing body's approval. And they approved the donation that I made. No further town meeting vote is needed to spend money from a conservation fund, but a majority of a conservation commission must vote to authorize expenditures. RSA 36-A:5, 1 and 2. If money from the fund is to be used to purchase any interest in land, a commission must hold a public hearing and the acquisition must be approved by the select board or city council. So we have the authority to make a donation to the Heritage Committee or whoever's buying this piece of property from the Conservation Fund, as long as the majority of us vote for it.
yeah, I don't think that's the question. The question is, what is your fund for and what's an appropriate use of the fund? So that's why I'm reading through, there's like 70 pages of,
I've already read.
I'm
this.
sure you have.
So I want a motion then from somebody here as to what amount of money we should donate from the Conservation Fund to the,
All right, I'll make a motion. I say let's donate $3,000.
do I hear a second?
Just threw that out of a hat.
Why is it too high? Is that why people are hesitating?
I don't think we know.
I don't think we know.
no what?
that-
Well, once we have a second, then we can discuss it, right?
Of
Yeah,
course,
right.
I'll second it.
So then let's discuss. Carol, what's on your mind?
What are your concerns?
What she brought up is that, you know, if I were clear that this is not taxpayer money directly. Because, I just feel like, you know, some of the taxpayers may not agree. I personally am for it.
Mhm.
You know,
That's all you
3,000,
have to do, because I just read you the regulations and I personally donated $8,000 to. the
That's irrelevant,
Conservation
Chair.
Fund. No, it isn't, because that's not taxpayers' money.
No, I know, but we don't need to know that.
That's not the point. My point is that it covers the $3,000 you're asking for us to donate.
But once you put it into the fund, it doesn't matter. You're saying it doesn't matter who it's from, but it matters if it's you.
It doesn't matter if it's me. The point is it isn't taxpayers' money. So Carol's concern about spending taxpayers' money without their approval is irrelevant.
then I will vote, I'd vote to go along with the $3,000 because I would love to see this happen. And I think it's a good use of the money.
All right, so Lee, what's your vote?
Concern, Lee?
I vote yes.
But you sound like you had some concern.
No, no, I mean, $3,000 to me is like, you know, a year's salary almost, but I think it's worth it. The land is beautiful.
Mhm.
You know, I'm thinking it in proportion to what I have to this, but the land is beautiful. If we can help save it, you know.
So
Shirley?
Shirley can't vote. She has to recuse herself.
All right, Kate?
So I'm gonna be a no because I don't see that you posted it as an agenda item. And I don't feel like you have a definition of how you spend the money. And I like to see a sample of past practices and understand the proposal and see it come before me in written form. But in the spirit of open meeting law, I think that we're violating open meeting law by not noticing that we're gonna spend money. So I'm gonna,
Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 for donating $3,000 and 1 against. The majority has the issue if you all are sticking to your vote. Because I know that we can do this. It's in the RSAs. So, is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
I would say that it's not in the RSA's to violate open meeting law by not putting it on the agenda. So I want that in a minute.
Well, there's not time to put it on the
That's
agenda.
not how it works. You call a special meeting. You don't pick something. Like if I was like, hey, let's fund Kate's Horse Park, and it's not because I don't think the museum is fabulous. You don't put something on the mini agenda at the last minute and then vote on it and not make it public.
So what do we have to do to get it,
No, you guys wanna do it, so just do it. I'm saying that's why I'm opposed. And I think I will personally probably donate, but I think if it was posted on an agenda like it's supposed to be when you have a discussion, that would have been a more appropriate.
Well, the
way to-
campaign will be going on after the closing.
No,
So, we could vote on it.
you guys are gonna say yes one way or another, so it's fine.
All right.
No, we
In
wanna
order
do
to
this.
make everybody happy, I'm gonna
Appropriate.
call a special meeting next week. With one item on the agenda is the donation of $3,000.
Well, you had a motion, already called it, so do you wanna have someone voting in favor, put it back on the table, withdraw it and do that? Because otherwise you already have.
so I made the motion.
All right, I seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then in order to supply all the bureaucracy, we will have a special meeting next week to officially affirm our donation.
Okay.
So can you all come next Thursday?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, if this building is open, I will reserve the room for 7 o'clock on Thursday next week.
Vote on this again.
I won't be a member by then, but if I were, I would have come and I would have voted for it. but-
Unfortunately, we can't wait.
Well, I think it'd be nice to see,
So I'm not coming next week.
It's fine.
I hadn't thought about it, but I think it would be nice to see that the Conservation Commission supported it.
Yeah.
You know, how that's,
Yeah, I think
That's what we do.
I'd be a lot more comfortable with writing a letter of support, but that's just my personal opinion. Right.
Okay. The rest of this stuff is basically something that we don't have much to do, but I do want to call your attention to something I received yesterday from,
Can I
When-
circle us back to minutes real quick, just did we officially vote?
No,
to
we didn't.
I didn't think. Okay.
did what?
A vote to approve.
Approve the minutes. We started talking about it and then we got sidetracked.
Yes,
Oh, I
led
see. Did
into
you
this.
make, I beg your pardon, did you make the correction that I suggested
Yeah,
on line
and-
148?
I did, yeah, and
Okay.
then Curly's.
Sorry. All in favor of approving the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Aye.
oh. I can vote even though I wasn't here.
I thought if you didn't attend the meeting, you couldn't vote on the minutes.
That's, no, but you can.
You get a
vote.
copy.
You can abstain if you want, but you're legally, if you believe they're a true copy of what actually happened, you're allowed to say yes.
All right, very good. Now, if
Because I
you
didn't
look at your,
used to think you could do that, but I've been hearing it all the time lately.
have you all brought your maps?
Yep.
Okay,
Where are we? Yep.
look at map 24, lot 2. This piece of property has,
been proposed to have the construction of a dwelling, a septic system and driveway on 0.36 acres lot near the shoreline of Mascoma Lake. So that's what they plan to do there. I have a copy of the positions that I think I gave a copy to somebody. Any event, you can pass this around. You can see where the property is on that map, what they plan to do with it.
And I was,
We haven't got
0.36, you said.
0.36 acres.
How big a house? How big a?
The house is going to be 2,200 square feet, 3 bedrooms.
Which, what's the map, the lot number again?
The map,
3-bedroom.
24 lot 2.
Thank you.
So is this, we still have a right to, you know,
Now, this is, they will have their own septic system, or is
Yeah.
this on?
On that small lot,
Yeah, that was the little camp, right?
yeah,
Where
Where
is
that
this?
woman lived for.
the camp was supposedly burned down 20 years ago, and now they want to build a permanent residence.
Oh, on Shaker Boulevard.
Yeah,
do we, I was under the impression we didn't have any say on shoreline.
You're right, we don't. But that doesn't prevent us from necessarily alerting the DES to our concern.
Okay,
They don't have to take us into consideration, but we can say that if you feel as though
that's
this is
terrible.
gonna pose a potential. See, that's the trouble, the actual, plans for this thing are locked up in the town hall. And though the DES regulations require the town to supply the Conservation Commission with a set of those plans, they don't have the capacity to reproduce them. I'm going to see if, PDF can be produced from the plans by the town manager, but they are certainly not going to be as accurate and as well delineated. But there's the pictures that they're planning on using right there.
yeah.
Oh,
So that's the lot right there.
That's
a
a
lot.
lot. That's,
Looks like they
you
had
mean
some
that's a
runoff
butters
there.
on each side?
Yeah,
didn't they look, they have some
It does.
runoff problems there?
A butters or, oh my God,
there's 2 abutters.
how wide is it? 60?
I mean, all those lots are narrow.
is the name
Yeah,
on the,
It is 59. Sorry, 59.5 feet wide. Or so, sorry, that lot 2 is 60 feet wide. And it's
43.
243 feet long. It doesn't qualify even for a 250-foot setback for the Woodman's setback.
does it have a footprint on it now?
No, the place that was there burned down 20 years ago, according to what the
Often the
statement by the own, the landowner says.
It's all beach there, isn't it, right now? Isn't it just,
Let me have that thing I just gave, that,
Is the name
there's some
on
trees
the, on the,
well, that's a very strange thing too.
is it Albert?
The
This is
property is
Deborah.
owned by Jennifer. I have it here. Carbonell, Jennifer Carbonell. However,
People buying it, is it the Alberts?
Oh,
no,
it's being sold.
the person that prepared this worksheet is Michael Carbonell. The interesting thing is that the property is owned by the Lakeview Realty Trust in 96 Pleasant Street, Claremont, in New Hampshire. However, the phone number is not a New Hampshire phone number. The phone number is listed as an area code 727 743-2411, and it is available at azargus@me.com. And there's also a trust that was signed over to some people in Florida. But that's really not relevant to what we're talking about, I don't think. To me, at least, the ownership of this property is a little bit fuzzy. But what's concerning me is the size of the lot, what they plan to build there.
Look at the runoff there.
Yeah, I was saying it.
They're likely to need a rain garden much larger than what they can accommodate on that property.
Does it go in front of the planning board and CBA and?
There, I mean, depending on what they wanna do, you're gonna need some variance.
That is already gone.
This has been submitted to the DES, and I don't know that planning board will be able to do anything until the DES decides themselves what they can do. But at any rate, all I want to know is there enough people here concerned?
For a 2,200 square foot building, you said?
That's terrible.
That's a big building.
On the septic.
I mean, if you can convince DES and everybody else, I think that's gonna be a hard sell to DES.
I
I
think
don't think
the,
DES is
I think the
foolish.
sewer
You mean you
line
gotta
goes
have
down
a-
that far, doesn't it?
The beach you're talking?
The sewer line.
Oh, the sewer line? No, there's no sewer there.
You have to have.
Yours is
your-
like
This is
you?
Shaker Boulevard, right?
So many
Yeah,
feet from
it's-
your water
This
too.
is Shaker Boulevard. There's no sewer line on Shaker Boulevard at all.
No, I'm on 4A.
No, this is Shaker Boulevard.
Well, they should put it through there.
It's a little ways up from 4A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's the stream. What's that, Knox Stream or something?
Not
That's
river.
Knox
Knox
River.
River, yeah.
Yeah, I know where
4A.
that is.
Right out.
Yeah.
Where all those lots are, and the houses are like this. I mean, they're gonna end up going to ZBA because unless you build like a little teeny, right, to get your 20 feet from the boundary line.
Yeah, because you gotta be
Yeah.
on each
Yeah.
side, you
Why
gotta
we
have
did what
a.
we did and had to tie in the sewer line because we could only we have an acre. And we could only put a 2-bedroom.
So, Kate, what you're saying is the odds of going through zoning are pretty poor, right?
Passing, well, I'm not saying it's pretty poor, I can't speak for them, it's going to
DES.
go to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, if DES, who knows?
They see that picture.
I don't even think it's a matter of seeing the picture, like if you've got 243 feet. So you can get back away from the shoreline. If you've got 60-ish feet across,
You gotta have room for a septic system and you must need a well.
And the leach field and the well.
oh
And
wait,
they have to be so many feet apart.
The leach field itself is gonna be at least 20-25 feet.
there's,
House that big, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it depends.
not
on the size you put
necessarily.
in.
If they
Yeah.
put in a,
Enviro.
we have a, system that's really a wastewater treatment plant.
You can put them right on
and,
your driveway now.
They're the best thing for around lakes. And, if they put something in like that, it does not take up much space.
Or you make friends with your neighbor across the road by an easement, that's a whole nother, that's very common on that side of the lake, so.
Pardon me.
It's very common to buy an easement across the street or. That's a tough side of the lake.
So what
But
do
a
we wanna do? Do we
conventional
wanna
system
just
would not fit
send
there.
them a note and say we have concerns? Is that what you're
But at the moment, I think that's all we have authority.
already to do? Right, and I'm in agreement with that.
Because we would certainly have concerns about someone, if they were trying to put in a conventional system. Well,
It wouldn't fit.
no,
It wouldn't fit.
no.
20 feet here and 20 feet there and 22 feet long. It's not gonna work.
Concerns about runoff
If
into the
you
lake.
get the rubber stamp from boards, they go, people go ahead and do these things.
Yeah.
DES is hopefully will, stop it.
They should be all over that.
Okay, so
Let's vote.
what I'm getting an idea is that we as a conservation commission should write to the DES with regard to our concerns regarding the size of this property and the construction that they want to put on it. Is that,
Yes.
is that all that we need to raise the
Yes.
DES is concerned about? Okay, can I have a motion for that, to authorize that letter to be written?
I do authorize, I propose the motion to authorize you to write that letter.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I will do that, and I will bring the copy of the letter to the Conservation Commission in October to make sure you all agree with the verbiage on it. And then I'll send, there's plenty of time because these people don't plan to start any kind of construction until they said fall or winter. And they can't do anything until the conservation, until DES gives them permission. Okay, so anybody else got any business?
Yeah, like in regards to education, I just wanted to give you guys an update. It's kind of unique that Patty was here today. I went to the UNH extension class today, and it sounds like that's one of the classes where she got her start on the gardens, because what this was called Speaking for Wildlife, and it was meant to give people like me the ability to have access to presentations and bring them to the public or to schools. So, and then, right now I have clearance to access their database for all the PowerPoints and everything for 7 different presentations. And one of them was, I think Patty probably got a start for that one. It's called A Garden for Wildlife.
Yes, Patty went just recently to these.
So there's 7 of them, and there's 2 of them. These are mainly for older people, but there's 2 of them that it can be adapted for kids. So I'm looking at birds, bats, and butterflies. Keeping common wildlife common is 1, and reptiles and amphibians warming up to New Hampshire's cold-blooded natives is 2 for my enrichment class. I had 4 modules designed, but thinking about November and December, I don't think I can do 4 outside. And they were hesitant about letting me take the kids off campus to see down to the river or to Hughes Park because we didn't have the time to do that. So I'm gonna keep them in the building or just take walks around the school grounds itself. So that limits some of the outdoor stuff I can do. So I figured these 2, I could you do a presentation with some pictures and some handouts and stuff like that. And then I'll do the squirrel presentation. I'm working on that one because there's some bunch of oak trees right out there, so we can go out and do that. I'll have 4 weeks to try to get so it isn't, the weather would be good for that. And then the last one, which I met with Sue Pratt this week. She was cool. I really liked her a lot. Down at Grantham, and she had a water table model that I looked at, but they can't lend it out. But she mentioned that I could go to the New Hampshire Lakes Association and get a watershed warriors kit, which would be perfect for grade school kids. So I got a contact from her, and I'm going to contact that lady. We may have to purchase
Aaron
that.
Mastine.
Yes, Aaron. So that'll be a small purchase. It's not gonna be very much, but I'll get that information as soon as possible and get it submitted. So that's basically what I have to report. So I'm plugging away at those presentations for the enrichment for kids. And my last thing, Jerry, did you make any contact with Jen Fitzgerald from the high school at all?
Not yet.
Not yet?
because school hadn't taken
Okay,
up.
okay.
So her name is Jen
Fitzgerald. I introduced her to you.
Yeah, with my name Jeri, so she thinks I'm probably a girl.
I'm sorry. Isn't that how it's spelled?
No, it's Jerold.
Oh, Gerald. But we call you Jerry.
Well, that's also the way, but that's Jerry.
Oh, okay, well, I know a Jerry, Jeri, just like you. I mean, just like I called you, maybe that's why I used it,
Is
sorry.
it a female or?
No, it's a male.
Oh, I never heard of males.
Yeah, you generally, I is generally.
Now we do.
So, yeah, so that's all I have to report from that.
That sounds good.
Also, I got from her is, this is available through the DES. It's called Interactive Lake Ecology. It's a teacher's reference.
Mhm.
So, I don't know if anyone wants to take, I haven't looked at it yet. Maybe I'll bring it to the next meeting and you can look at it, but it looks like there might be some information here for just providing classes on lake ecology.
I actually have a copy.
You have a copy of that? I figured you did.
I've collected a lot of stuff over the years.
Sure you did.
Any other business?
I just wanted to ask, Jay, so you're gonna bring the canopy?
Oh, yeah, the tent, yeah,
Yes.
I'll show, I guess we can show up at 9 o'clock,
Yes.
and, it shouldn't take us long to get
No,
set
no,
up.
and you'll take it down?
Yep,
Oh,
and I might need a little help, I mean, I'll do the heavy lifting, but I might need a little help. And I'm gonna bring the two maps, the wildlife, area maps,
Yeah.
habitat maps, I'm gonna bring them on stand so people can look at them. And I got some of the handouts that I had at the town
Thank
hall, I'll
you.
bring some of those for people to take, okay?
Yep.
You need any help from me?
I don't think so, Jerry, I mean, I think.
That's Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's Saturday,
9 o'clock?
yeah, I think Lee and I-
Tomorrow?
No, I have a Midori coming from Japan. I've gotta go run her around tomorrow, but
One other question. Have you had anything more, contact with Boy Scouts?
no, I have not. I've sent a couple of emails. The last time they were going away, I can't remember. You gave me somebody else to contact. He was going away and he said he could come. He wanted to do a Zoom on September
Okay.
21st, but I don't think we can do Zoom, so with
Be sure and keep. next
I
Thursday-
got my, yeah, I've
Next
still got
Thursday
it.
open, so we can
Yeah.
have that special meeting to allocate this money for
Oh,
the,
let me see if I can, yeah.
I will get in touch with you as soon as I find out if this building is available.
Okay, that's good. No, I have not. They're busy people.
All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Thank you all.
And I know you from down the Hitchcock.
Yeah,
Yeah, you remember, I don't know if you remember me, I spent 36 years there.
okay, I was there for 31.
I was in management my whole career and, food and nutrition, and then environmental services right next door to you.
Okay.
When did you retire? Oh, we-
4 days.
2000. Okay, so yeah, I had to do a little
Why, did you-
side trip.
did
up
you
to
need
Central
something,
Vermont.
Kate?
No, I was gonna say,